In this video, we are going to be talking about the 1980 film American Gigolo, which stars Richard Gere and Lauren Hutton and was written and directed by Paul Schrader. This is Steve's movie pick of the day by the movie guy Steve Chambers. Let's see how it holds up also as a film. Does it have a balance between the two? We're going to find out right now.
Give me a movie to eat popcorn to.
I don't watch any of that trash. Let me put it this way. I watch film for adults. We are Movie versus Film, a film education and movie review channel. My name is Robert Bellissimo. I am the film guy.
I'm Steve Chambers. I'm the movie guy.
In order for this to be considered both a movie and a film, it has to get an overall balance of at least 8 out of 10 on our movie and film scorecards. Let's see how it holds up. Over to the movie guy.
Okay, let's look at my movie criteria. Magic. You see that? We got coolness. We got feel, clear story, entertaining, and wow factor. So first off, according to IMDb, here's a little synopsis of American Gigolo for you. A Los Angeles male escort who mostly caters to an older female clientele is accused of a murder which he did not commit. Okay, so let's go through this. Number one, coolness. Yes, man, it's cool. Everything about this is cool. If it wasn't for this movie, Armani wouldn't be a thing. Like, their wardrobe's cool. Richard Gere's outfits, you know, cool as his, what do you call it, his apartment, the whole look and feel, the neo-noir kind of, the soundtrack by Giorgio Moroder and Blondie, the cars, the Richard Gere's character, cool on surface level. I mean, that's his whole thing, is about being, you know, surface level cool. And this film is as though Richard Gere's character, Julian Kay, told the story. Like, this is my version of it. So it is sort of removed and like a music video and sexy and very clean. And it's a version of Los Angeles that's very Beverly Hills. And it's the version of LA that this guy wants to be a part of. Feel, yeah, man. I'm not heady about it. There's nothing to be heady about. That's not fair. There potentially are, but it's presented in a way that it doesn't need to be. You can just look at it and you can feel like, oh, you get sucked in, like, oh, this is what this guy's up to. What's he up to? Oh, look at him. Oh, he's neat. Oh, a little love affair happening. Where's that going to take him? Well, that's going to crack his armor. And all of these things aren't intellectual thoughts. They're feelings you have. They're correctly told by this director. Like, he knows how to suck in and here, feel that, don't feel this when I want you to. Feel the coldness of this character, of how he presents himself, of what he defines as a relationship. You feel it all. You can talk about it as we are right now later and therefore think about it, but you don't really need to think. Just watch it. So yeah, feel. Clear story. Yes. American Gigolo starts off just by, you know, we're watching incidents unfold. We're just watching this character go by, and it's interesting, and you feel it. You're entertained by it. And the guy is kind of, he's curious. Like, where's he from? You don't need that information, but you do find yourself kind of later like, what is his backstory? Or maybe not thinking about it, but you're feeling like, what is, you don't need it. So you're not really obsessed with it, but what is up? Like, this guy just sort of appeared out of nowhere, like Neo in the Matrix of Beverly Hills prostitution. Like, he's just this guy who's got no attachments, no background. It's really cool to just watch this guy and his interactions and his sense of humor and his suaveness and he's very intellectual and he's very smart. He speaks many languages. He keeps fit. Well, you have to for that job. And all of that's going on, and I'm into that. And it's clear. It's not the story, because the whole movie, for my money, could have just been watching this guy. It could have been like a proper film. It could have just been this guy getting by being a male escort. But then we're introduced to the aspect of he's framed for murder. And now we've got like a traditional story. We've got a plot. And so for my money, it's really cool to set up a character like the great horror movies. Poltergeist, The Exorcist, you spend a lot of time setting up this family. I get to know them. I care about them. I live in their world. And then you throw the monster in the room. That's excellent. Same with Jaws. Same with this. We spend a lot of time getting to know this guy, but you can't get to know him. So it is interesting. That's why that aspect could be a film in itself. But getting to spend time with this Julian character is quite interesting. And then we got the monster in the room. But the monster in this case is someone, for some reason, is framing this guy for a crime he didn't commit. And it's clear we've spent enough time with him. So there is no question like, well, did he commit it? No, he didn't. We know he didn't. The audience knows he didn't. So you have no choice whether you like him or not, and you do because the story is being told through his eyes, which kind of makes you him. You got to root for him. You got to side for him. You got to like clear this guy's name, and like people are turning their backs on him, and you quickly start to realize, there's a plot. There's something going on. It's not just that someone accidentally framed someone so they could get away with the crime. No, he's targeted. In fact, targeting this guy is maybe more important than whatever the crime is itself. It's almost like we got to do something to this guy. So whatever, commit any crime, so long as we get this guy. Why? Well, you start to discover that as the film goes on, and that kind of plays into the whole, who is this guy from the beginning? And so I think it's so interesting. It is clear, as confusing as that all might sound, it's not. It's 100% clear. I didn't even mention there's a whole love affair aspect to that, which is, they play it off like it's huge, but to me, that's not the greatest memory I have of this film. I don't say it's not the greatest, like it's a negative memory. It's just not, you need it. You need it. Don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't call it a love story like the film. It's just not a love film. Entertaining or captivating. Again, look at this. Yes, man. It's absolutely, it goes back to my first thing. It's cool. You feel it. All the points I just made play into making this an entertaining movie. And again, the music, the style, the whole damn thing, the color schemes, the set design, all of that is awesome and entertaining, and I'm captivated, and I want to know, once we introduce that so-called monster in the room, once we have this crime that this guy's got to clear his name of, yeah, man, I'm entertained. Yeah. And finally, wow factor, yes and no. I'm gonna go yes and no. So I love this movie and everything that happens in it. It does leave me by the end credits going, well, it could have me I've watched this a bunch of times. And so I got to say that, yeah, by the end credits, I want to watch it again. And I have watched it again. But it goes back to that love story aspect. Like, I don't know if it's that it feels forced. I don't know. It is necessary for many reasons that we'll talk about if you stick around for our kind of post-talk, some things I want to bring up. But it ends on this love story, the strength of this love affair that will make the day. And it makes sense. Like on paper, I get it, because this guy's so cold that he finally opened himself up, and then, but it might be too little too late because he's so cold, he's pissed off a lot of people. That's why he's framed. You got all this stuff going on. And by the end, this love affair with Lauren Hutton is sort of what saves his ass. But the way it's presented, the way it's shot, the ending scene just was like, your movie's too good to just leave me with that. So anyway, adding all that up, 1, 2, 3, 4.5, a half point for wow factor. We do have a final tally of 4.5 popcorns out of 5. 4.5 popcorns, making this certainly a movie. Over to the film guy, Robert.
Let's see how it holds up as a film. Pop. We've got my scorecard up: complexity, emotional, strong acting, ambiguous, and life questions. So am I going to give it the complexity coffee cup? I'm going to give it a half for complexity. I would say that the Richard Gere character, Julian, is two sides of a coin, in the sense that he's a man who needs control. Everything in his life is about control. He doesn't work. He's not going to work for one pimp. He's like, whoa. I don't work for one person. He's his own person. We see this building of this character and his style and his need to look perfect. And obviously that goes with the job, and to learn the languages so he can do that with the women coming in from other countries that he's quote unquote chaperoning. And even in the lovemaking, he likes older women because for him that they're more of a challenge, because they maybe have been in unhappy marriages. And And so he likes the challenge of maybe it's going to take a couple of hours to bring them to orgasm, right? Which he talks about with the woman who essentially was murdered, right? It took him 3 hours to bring him to orgasm. So he says younger women are too easy. They climax too easily. So therefore he loses control. That's why he's not interested in them. Lauren Hutton even says to him, you're so sweet and tender when we're kissing, but then when we start making love, you go to work. And again, it's because he can't let go of himself. He has to always play the part, and the gigolo is the guy who's in control. I'm been hired to do this, therefore I'm running it. So I quite found that fascinating. And basically what happens is it has this beautiful build of who he is. He has no one in his life. He has no relationships and no friends. And he works for these different pimps. Later on, what I find fascinating is that control that he needs, which ultimately because of the framings, begins to be taken away from him. Suddenly now no one wants to hire him because he's bad news around town. His alibi says that she wasn't with him, even though she was with him. And, because it's all being clearly engineered by someone, and everything is being taken away from this guy. The women he works with is turning his back on him. The cops are after him. He's up all night. He's searching for the diamonds that have been stolen. Someone must have planted it there. And that is really, you really feel for him because he is this guy who's got it all, who's got everything in check. And then that is going out of control. Also with the love story, when you fall in love, that is a level of control which you are ultimately losing. And he's it's like Paul Schrader says, this is actually underneath the plot is really about a guy who's lonely, makes himself lonely. He's ultimately must be afraid of love, even though it's something he clearly wants, he clearly yearns, but he makes himself that way because he's afraid to let himself go, to let go of the facade of even the way he walks, even the way he dresses. He's got the blazer over his arm. It's like a picture. That must have been a conscious choice. I think it's very calculated, and I think Richard Gere did such a great job. Lauren Hutton also is quite interesting in the sense that she has this love affair with Richard Gere, and she's married to this politician, and the only reason she can't leave him is because it'll ruin this guy politically. Imagine when it gets out that they broke up, and not only did they break up, she's in love with a gigolo. Like at that time, any kind of scandal like that would end a politician. Now, not so much, as we've seen. 1980 for sure. I mean, if you broke up with your wife, that would rock your political. So she's obviously attached to this guy, and it's not as simple as leaving him. Leave him, he's ruined. His career is ruined. His political life is ruined. So it's really the two sides of the coin between Lauren Hutton and Richard Gere. So it is somewhat complex. It's clear. For me, something is to be totally complex, it has to be more than the two sides of a coin, but that is still somewhat complex. So I'm going to give it a half. Emotional also half. The first half of the film, it's interesting because it's usually after this film ends that I'm like, I always say to myself, I really like this movie. When I'm watching it, I always struggle to get involved. I suppose because he is detached and he's distant and he's neutral and he's cool and he's not letting anyone in. Therefore, I, as the audience, am not being allowed into his emotional life. But what happens is, for me, it's the scene where he's searching his apartment, and that's when he starts to crack and he starts to lose it, breaks his stereo system. He's looking for the diamonds. He's wrecking his car. That's when shit starts to really hit the fan. And at that point, I am, he's fucked, and he's really in trouble. Like it's life or death for this guy. They've got evidence against him. The cops think it's him. His alibi is gone, and then you're like, fuck. Like my heart goes out to him when you see him alone in that jail, and he's just given up after he's then thrown the one guy off the balcony. That at that point, I'm like, man, he's just the lone man. I really like those shots. You know, he sits in the apartment. That's when he just gives up. You know, he's that guy. Well, he didn't throw him off the balcony. He got so angry that he couldn't save him after he didn't mean to throw him off. But I just like that he sits there with the Andy Warhol paintings behind him, and just like, and then the next shot is him in the jail with that same expression, like, what am I gonna do? I thought the scene with Lauren Hutton, actually, I know what you mean, because I had the first instinct too, kind of like, she makes the choice to say she was with him because she knows everyone would believe, if she's gonna say that, the consequences are so enormous. The marriage is over. Her husband's political career is over. So that'll definitely get him out of it. You know, I didn't see that coming. I saw that as when she goes to the jail, that would be it. When he says, you know, just forget about me, and you see the tears in her eyes. I thought it was going to end there. The last scene which is right out of Pickpocket. He was a big fan of Bresson, Robert Bresson, Paul Schrader, and it's exactly the last shot. It's the exact same last shot. And you know what I really loved about it is because he knows, not only does he know he's going to get out of jail, but he knows that now they can be together. And he just, not only that, like, I think all that stuff that he was holding on to, all that facade, it's just gone. He sort of, it's not just like an, oh, I love you. Like, his head hits the window and he's like, I think he says something along the lines of, you know, I've been waiting for this my whole life. Like, it says so much about not just that he's going to be with her, but just that I can stop doing what I'm doing. I think the control was killing him. So it's kind of, it feels like kind of corny, but who cares? I love it. I think it's great. I think it's great. For me, I just thought, you know, he could have went the cynical route, or he could have went maybe a melodramatic route, but I think it revealed so much about him and her that it just was really striking. And I always remember that last shot from the first time I saw this movie. Strong acting. Yeah, I think, you know, Richard Gere was really good in this. And you know, it's hard to be that mysterious in a part. And as an actor myself, you know, you always want to show, you always want to respond. And you know, for him to be that neutral and to trust that, you know, by letting everything be held back, that would work. And that's really the key to the guy. It's his clothes, it's his swagger, it's his distance, it's his control. And there's a real level of trust that the director and you have to have in each other to do that. Then, of course, you know, once it unravels, like I said, it's quite brilliant. Like, I thought he was very responsive, especially with the scenes with Lauren Hutton. I thought, and speaking of acting, she was really, really good in this too. Like, when she goes to his apartment for the first time and she wants to be with him, and she says, "Why are you embarrassing me?" Because he says, "Oh, I don't, you know, I don't do that," and so on and so forth. You see just a little bit of tear in her eye, like just a real vulnerability that I thought was really subtle and small, which I thought was really, really good. And then even at the end in the jail, not the very last scene, the scene before where, you know, like he's saying goodbye to her, you see again, just she's holding it back, the heartbreak, right? It's like she's trying to be strong. And I actually thought it was really fantastic. So yeah, it definitely gets acting for me. Ambiguous, I wasn't going to say it was ambiguous, but you left me thinking in terms of, I think everything is clear cut in terms of his loneliness and in terms of that he needed love and he gets love, and ultimately that's what he wanted, and everything that she, you know, the problems with her marriage, and that, you know, this guy is someone she loved, and so on and so forth. However, what does, you made me think, because I think where one leans in is why they framed him. Now, the pimp says it's because he was frameable. It's not like you saw a scene where the female pimp and the black pimp were like, okay, this is what we're going to do.
Not at all.
I mean, I imagine she's also in on it, perhaps, because she says she doesn't care whether he did it or not. I mean, maybe
Yeah, maybe, maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't feel that she is in on it, but I think she's just like an indicator, like a litmus. That's where he's at with every other connection he
Yeah.
had. Even this woman, who was the closest thing to a mother figure he had,
Right.
doesn't give a
Right.
shit. He's burned every
Well,
bridge.
the pimp, he warns him about that. And then I thought, if you're going to frame this guy, why are you warning him about, like, is he just trying to, make it look like the guy wouldn't suspect him later? Because at this point, the frame is pretty much in motion, right? Like,
Mhm.
obviously this was all set up and, just to get him. So, there, it's a little open there.
Oh, I
I mean,
agree. They
it's,
don't
yeah,
spell it out for you. They don't show Leon is the guy played by
Leon, yeah,
Bill
yeah,
Duke, um, also from Predator. They don't show him coming up with the plot. You're right. Like, we don't know. We're in Julian's shoes. So as he starts to figure it out, so do we. And we never
yeah,
get
yeah.
full answers. So you're not wrong.
It's worthy of definitely a half, for ambiguous life questions. It doesn't stand, and nothing is sort of stands out as a question about life. But I think, I mean, ultimately, it gives you an answer about, the choice between love and fear. More with Lauren Hutton, like, is she going to, she has a choice here. Do what you really want to do, really follow who you love, or stay in the comfort of your husband and his safe political career. And, she chooses love. So I don't think that was necessarily being posed to the audience because it gets cleared up. But at the same time, made me wonder, what would people do? I mean, I think often people would choose the fear, right? But again, art shows you what life can be like. So I think that is out there to ponder over. I mean, he's sort of doing the same thing. I mean, he's always choosing the fear route, right? The safe route. At this point, is he only choosing to be with her because his gigolo career is over? It's like, it's making me think the more I talk about it. Well, I think I'll stick with my first instinct, which is really to give it a half, because I think ultimately it's a crime story, and it's a story about loneliness in the life of a gigolo, even though love is a big part of it. So I'll give it a half for life questions. Whether what would you do? What would the audience do? So I give it a
3,
3 out of 5, and you gave it a
4.5.
4.5, which makes it just shy of a healthy balance between a movie and a film, but quite close to both. I sort of lean this more towards a movie because it is very plot driven, and it doesn't necessarily center around the things that it goes into, the love and the loneliness, but that's sort of everything beneath it. But ultimately, it's yeah, I would say it's interesting because before you had said you felt it was
I
perhaps
feel
more
that
of a
it's more of a
film. Yeah,
film.
yeah. Well, why is that?
For all the things you said, I think it's more of a character study than a plot driven thing. I think the plot's incidental, not in a bad way that you could throw it away. I think it's great and it's wildly engaging. But every time I think about it, what I feel is the study of the Julian character and all the questions you asked. Like, is he really in love with the Lauren Hutton character, or is it just I got no other options? She's getting me out of jail. But I don't think he plans that. I really think he's like a leaf in the wind, and he blows this way and that. And it makes me really curious about, like, what was your upbringing? What led you to this? And to me, it
Yeah,
raises
yeah.
more questions than answers, because again, I'm not looking at the crime thriller part. Again, you need it to get this character from point A to point B, which is really point A to point B is still a mysterious leap, because because I still don't know anything about this guy. And I don't say I don't know anything about this guy because the filmmaker was lazy. That's kind of the point, because I think we're saying that this guy doesn't know anything about himself. And who knows what led him into this world. And I think it's fascinating, the relationship we only allude to with that mother type figure, his initial pimp, Nina Van Pallant.
Yeah.
I forget her
I think
name.
so. Yeah.
I'm really interested in, like, what was that? And I like that they don't give us too much. It's no flashback. It's just stuff she says. And you can tell, like, he's getting educated, and he's intimidated by her. Like, she's his boss, even though he's starting to make a move away from her. And it's really like, it lends to this, like, okay, if that was your mother figure, and maybe that means you needed this because you're such a wayward kid. But then once you start to get your ego boosted, and that's probably a big reason why you got into this career, because you feel like the man, you're starting to move away from this woman who you probably saw as a much needed mom, and yet you're going to move away from her, and you're going to keep moving away. And once you get close to someone, you're out, and then you get the next thing and the next thing. And I want to know what led you to that. And that, to me, is what this film's about. It's all about this guy. And I don't think it is, okay, now he's learned his lesson, and by now he's at the end with the Lauren Hutton character. They're happily ever after. No, probably not. He's probably going to treat her the way he treated that Nina Van Pallant character. He's probably not necessarily as a mom, although she's older, that might be his thing. And he will treat her sort of like a mother figure, or he'll treat her like a wife. Either way, I bet he's going to move away again. And then where is he going to go? Back into this world? I don't know. What else does he know? Well, by now he knows a lot. He's a well-educated, well-dressed, seductive, and not just sexually seductive. I think he's a good salesman. I think this guy could ultimately get by at a lot of different things in life. And his whole thing seems to be status, right? Identity, because he has none. And I want to know about that.
Yeah.
Was given to Travolta.
Yeah.
And I'm glad he didn't do it.
Yeah, I think he's. I mean, I like Travolta,
Same.
but I mean, he would have been 25 when they shot this.
Yeah,
so
he would have been young.
It's funny that he left the project because he got cold feet, and I think it's sort of like, I don't think, it's funny because I don't think he had the coldness for it. I think that Gere has that. Of course, as part of this series of like lonely men from Schrader, Taxi Driver.
Yeah,
American Gigolo, the sleeper and the
light sleeper and
light sleeper and the walker.
The walker with Woody Harrelson.
The walker, yeah. So they all center around not the same person. But
I think Taxi Driver and American Gigolo are a great double feature. They're such different worlds. Like, one's grainy, gritty New York, and one's very sterile, neon, early 80s LA, Beverly Hills, and they're like totally worlds apart. But it's almost like you took the same spirit and put it in these two guys and watched them go.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah,
both of them are really removed. But the difference is De Niro wants closeness with Sybil Shepherd. Gere doesn't want closeness, but he's always pushing it the fuck away, which is why I think at the end of American Gigolo, I think he ultimately would push her away.
Well, that's, which, as we were talking, I started to think, I gave it a half for ambiguous, but I think I'm going to give it a full cup. So,
then it's an 8. Then it's an 8.
Because you're making me think, and it wasn't until we were talking that it's funny. He says, this is what he's been looking for his whole life as he gives up. But then at the same time, it's also because the facade has been stripped away. It's gone. His career as a gigolo is gone. So this is what he has now. So then, and I think he really wants it. I think it's a matter of he's just scared. Life is never that simple. I mean, I think it would be hard for him to just reinvent himself. Like, what is he gonna do? Like, I think you're right. I think he probably was some street kid, and this is all he knows. So what's next for that guy? I mean, it's like he makes it look like a Hollywood ending, but is it really? I would say it's a pretty healthy balance between the two, because it is strong on plot and strong on character, in my opinion. So I think that's fair, and it is, it has a conventional quality about it, yet not, So it's pretty half and half, I'd say. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Again, if this is your first time here, or if you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to our channel by clicking on the Movie versus Film logo that you'll see floating above my head to your top left, and then click the bell in order to get a notification every time we release one of our new videos or go live. Thank you again. We'll see you next time.